This week I came across a post that really made me stop and think. It wasn't another list of AI tools, and it wasn't someone claiming AI is going to dramatically replace all of our jobs. It was just a list of questions. A company that spends all day working with large organizations asked their team, what are the questions CEOs and executives keep asking about AI? And the list was fascinating. There were questions like, how do we know where AI fits in our business? Who should own AI internally? How do we deal with fragmented data? How do we know if an AI agent is actually doing a good job? How do we get our team using AI without disrupting everything else? And as I was reading through all of these questions, I realized something. These aren't enterprise questions. They are actually business questions. The language might be different, the budgets might be different, but these are exactly the same conversations I'm having every week with growing businesses. So today, instead of talking about another AI tool or another new feature, I want to unpack some of these questions with you, because I think they're the questions every business owner should be asking. Question 1. Where do we start? This was probably the biggest theme. Large organizations asked, how do we prioritize AI use cases? And small businesses usually ask me, hey, Jovana, where do I even start? And I think that's a much better question than should I use ChatGPT or Claude? Because AI isn't the starting point, your business is actually the starting point. Whenever we work with a client, we never start with technology. We start by asking, where is the friction? Where are people wasting time? Where are customers waiting? Take Neo Consulting as an example. When we started working together, the conversation wasn't about AI. It was about how work moved through the business. They were using spreadsheets, there was a lot of bottlenecks, and we quickly realized the questions like who owned each stage in the process, where projects slowed down, how information was handed from one person to the next. And once we redesigned those workflows inside, for them we built a custom CRM, automations started making sense. The technology wasn't the big driver of the strategy. The strategy actually led the technology. And I think that's where a lot of businesses get stuck. They're looking for AI to tell them what to do, when really AI works best when you've already identified the problem you're trying to solve. And question 2, why doesn't anything talk to each other? You've probably heard me say, why don't my tools play nice with each other? That's probably another way of phrasing that. And large organizations often ask, how do we unify, that's the language I used, how do we unify fragmented data? While small businesses typically ask, why doesn't my CRM update when someone becomes a customer? Or why do I have to enter the same information 3 times? Sometimes people just live like that for 20 years. Different questions, and it's really the same problem. One of our long-term clients, ETM, is a great example. Over the years, they've built an incredible business, but like many growing businesses, different systems had been added as the business evolved. Marketing lived in one silo, in one platform. Forms lived in another platform, accounting somewhere else, customer information existed in multiple places. Nothing was really broken, or, from their perspective, things were working, right? But it was just a lot of manual checking, a lot of manual work and effort required to maintain that system. So the next stage of growth wasn't another AI tool. It was actually creating one connected view of the customer journey. Because if your systems don't share information, neither can AI. And that's why I often say AI is only smart as the information you give it. There's another question that these executives keep asking themselves. They keep asking, who actually owns AI? I actually think this is one of my favorite questions. It's such a simple question, but think about your business for a moment. Who owns it? Marketing, operations, sales, IT, or is it you? In many growing businesses, everyone is experimenting. Someone uses ChatGPT, someone else prefers Claude, another person has found a new AI meeting tool. Everyone is trying different things, but no one is really steering the ship. You need a champion. You need someone who owns AI. And without ownership, AI becomes just a collection of experiments instead of a business capability. Somebody has to ask, is this solving a real problem? Are we measuring the outcome? Are we doing this consistently? You almost need a full-time employee if you have a big team who owns and ensures that workers do use AI. One of my friends was telling me about their workplace where they're using Claude. They're in a retail business and you have a team of 10 with different functions. Somebody's copywriter, website designer, UX designer, SEO, etc. And all of them use Claude to execute tasks. And but they're struggling because everyone is learning the same thing over and over again. Everyone is learning and asking the same questions of Claude. So they get frustrated and they actually lose time through that process. So it's not really efficient. And I think if you had one person dedicated for AI, just implementing solutions, so streamlining the processes so that the team can work efficiently, that would be an ideal situation. Now, the other questions they were asking, these executives, were, how do we know if AI is working? How do we know if our agent is actually good? I think every business owner should ask themselves a simpler version of that question. How will I know this has worked? Because success isn't we're using AI. Success is our team spends less time on admin, our customers get faster responses, our onboarding is smoother, our sales team has more time to sell. We recently worked with businesses where the biggest wins weren't flashy AI projects. They were removing quite boring, repetitive manual tasks that had just quietly been slowing the business down for years. So those improvements don't make headlines, but they absolutely change how a business operates. Other questions, and this one kind of struck with me because I ask myself every day in this world, is, are we behind? Actually, yeah, it made me chuckle because I hear exactly the same thing. Business owners tell me, I feel like everyone else has figured AI out. And you know what the truth is? They haven't. In my previous episode, I talked about how almost 90% of small businesses are already using at least one AI tool, but yet fewer than 1 in 5 have successfully integrated AI across their business. So that means most businesses are still experimenting. They're still learning. They're still trying to work out where AI actually creates value. And I know a lot of people that I've met, they were quite skeptical about AI. So if you're behind, you're in very good company. So out of the entire list, there was one question I kept coming back to. And that question was, what kind of business are we trying to build? That is really a big question. This is a really good question. What kind of business are we trying to build? Because once you answer that, everything else becomes clearer. Your customer journey becomes clearer. Your systems become clearer. The role AI should play becomes clearer. Technology should support your business, not define it. And yeah, you can just imagine yourself walking through a shop. This is the analogy I like to use. If you walk through a shop, what is the ideal customer journey for your customer that you want to have experienced as they go through the process of buying a product or not buying a product, and how do you want that process to look? So what kind of business are we trying to build? That's a very, very powerful question. So before you finish listening today, I'd love for you to ask yourself these questions. And these questions are, where does your team lose the most time every week? Where do your customers experience the most friction? If your best employee left tomorrow, what knowledge would leave with them? Who actually owns AI in your business? Which process would you never trust AI to do? And which process shouldn't require a human anymore? Notice I haven't really asked about which AI model you're using, because that's really the thing that holds businesses back. So reading all those list of questions, there was actually quite a lot. I would say there was about 50 questions. I could probably do an episode for each question. Whether you're running a business with 10 employees or 10,000, we are all trying to solve the same challenges. How do we serve customers better? How do we free our teams to do more valuable work? How do we grow without adding unnecessary complexity? AI can absolutely help us, but only when it's attached to a clear strategy. And if you're stuck with coming up with the AI strategy, that's why at Bumper Leads we don't start with software demonstrations. We start by understanding your business, your customer journey, your operations, your team. Then we identify where AI can genuinely create value. Sometimes that's an AI agent, sometimes it's a workflow, sometimes it's simply connecting systems that don't already exist. So if you are a growing business and you're wondering where AI actually fits, I'd love to help you. Head over to bumperleads.com and book a strategy session. We'll look at your business together and identify where AI can make the biggest impact and how it can support you to grow your business. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.